the regular meeting of the Dayton City Council for the March 14th. Stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mic up. All right, so I need approval of the agenda. There's at least one.
Yep, there's
Change.
one amendment, one addition. That's to F1. It is not a subset of F, it is just F1. We are looking to add the approval of letters of support for a request for federal funding for the city of Dayton for the water trails project that was approved at the last meeting. So we are going to apply for federal funding, and we just need to approve the letters of support that we've received.
Any other changes?
Nope, that's it. Thank you very much.
I need a motion and a second.
I'll motion.
I'll second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. Any more discussion on the agenda? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries. Consent agenda. I need a motion and a second.
Second, first, second, whatever you want.
I'll
Matt,
take second.
motion.
You take first. Perfect.
Okay.
All right. Any discussion?
Go ahead, Dave.
Consent.
All right. I just had a couple of quick things. I got off the page. Okay, and under item A, of course, we have several, looks like computer-related items for guidance technologies.
Yep. Those are
What
various
percent?
items. They're monitors, they're computers that are being updated that are 6, 7, 8 years old. So we're trying to make sure that we can revamp our computers so they don't just all of a sudden fail on us before they get to that
General
time.
replacement.
General
kind of
replacement,
things?
yeah, that's correct, yeah. So no, there's no new assets being purchased, it's just general replacement. Monitors that are being replaced are basically being able to be used at home. So we're just taking the monitors we have reused currently, replacing them, and then having those ones be taken home for take-home use while we have our work-from-home policy approved.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And then under the implementing security cameras at City Hall.
Yep.
Looked like you looked at a couple of different options, but it was a little bit unclear to me. Is this all cloud storage? It doesn't look like there's any
Yeah, it's all, there are both.
DVRs.
Yeah,
that
both of them
related to
have
this.
on-premise servers that they back up to and video record to. So both of the systems were exactly the same. Same number of cameras, same number of requests, same number of, there's one server that would be used for capacity and backup usage. Once the video's been overwritten, then it just overwrites itself. So I don't know how many days of storage it actually is exactly, but I would guess roughly 30 days.
Okay, I wasn't able to get that out of it. What kind of, what the length of storage is before it overwrites?
I believe it's 30 days, but it depends on the quality of the video and what's being recorded and so on and so forth. We need to keep a piece of video for longer term than that, but typically it'd be 30 days would be the time frame.
Okay, and I guess obviously we don't have an obligation to have these because we don't have them now.
Correct.
But is that, and maybe Paul, I'm looking to you on this, does that seem adequate to you for a period of time, long enough period of time before we overwrite data? Sometimes you don't know something's gone for a longer period of time than that. I just want to make sure we've got adequate storage to make sure we don't lose something before we know an incident happened.
Yeah, I think ours at the police department's 30 days and then it overwrites. Usually if we find something that does happen, we record it right away onto a USB drive and then put it into evidence. So if something did happen, if something that occurred here, we would download it onto USB and then we'd put it into evidence. The only thing would be is if something happens and then somebody notices it 30 days later, we might not be able to get the video, but usually it's 30 days.
Okay, and it looked to me like the UPS for this system was optional, and I would not consider that to be optional with this kind of equipment. They're not expensive, and so I would recommend getting that as well.
What was it? Sorry.
A UPS to support that server.
Sure. I can follow up and ask that just to make sure that it's to be included. If it's not optional, it'd be required.
That's all I had.
Anybody else? Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor of consent, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Consent is approved. Open forum. Limited to 3 minutes for non-agenda items. State your name and address. No council action will be taken, and items will be referred back to staff. Do we have anybody here for open forum? Come on forward. State your name and address, and then we'll have you fill out a... And this is for something not on the agenda?
No, it's on your agenda, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I believe it is, for the citywide moratorium.
yep, then we will call you up
Okay.
at that item.
Did you want me to fill one
Not,
out? You can pre-fill it
yeah,
out if
you can,
like.
yeah. Anybody else? Anybody online?
No.
All right. Staff consult council updates. Zach?
Yeah, just a couple updates for you, Mayor and Council. Reminder for the general public and for us that the city does have a Facebook page along with the police department, so make sure you follow along those pages. They provide information and updates to you. The police department has done a fantastic job of giving weekly updates with information, so please make sure to follow that Facebook page. I'd like to thank the council for selecting myself as the next administrator. We'll work through final details to get the contract on the next meeting, but I appreciate the support, and will continue to do my best to make sure that City of Dayton does the best moving forward as we possibly can. So thank you so much. I want to thank Ryan Melton from the Planning Commission. He has graciously donated a lot of his time to help the city revamp and reconfigure the city's website. He took about 2.5, 3 hours of his time last week to sit down with us and go through the website, pinch points, pain points, and he's going to use his expertise in IT to help us revamp that website at his own time. So we greatly appreciate that, as it's a much needed project for the city to make sure we have a easy to navigate website. I will be accompanying next Wednesday the Brayburn Trails residents with a board of directors meeting with Connexus, just to provide general information about city functions related to that, none to support or in favor or against the movement of the Connexus substation, but just provide information to Connexus if they do have any questions. But that will be next Wednesday for myself. I've been asked by the Brayburn residents to accompany them, and I said I would do that. The last thing is this was a question that came up a few meetings ago. I believe it was the first meeting in February, was a discussion about streetlights along Deerwood Lane North on the other side of Hayden Hills. We did get a cost back of roughly $40,000 for 4 streetlights to be added to that Deerwood Lane North section. They would be Cobra-style lights, so basically overhang and then be the best vision down to provide lighting along that road that does not have any sidewalks. I'd like to have the council's feedback on what we
That
should
was
do.
40 for all of them?
That is
They're
correct.
just 4 lights,
10
$10 grand piece.
4 lights is $40,000. Yep.
Okay.
Do we have power in the ground already?
I don't think so.
I didn't know, I would imagine, I wasn't part of the...
Yeah, Jason Quisberg was the one who looked into it. He's not here tonight, but he did look into it. 4 lights, about 400 feet spacing between them, so it would not be fine view of lighting, but it would run $40,000 based on a rough Connexus estimate.
And that would come out of transportation, probably?
It probably would come out of either general fund or transportation. Yeah,
Let's find out if power's included,
I can most certainly do that.
That's a good call.
Yeah.
and whether or not
suspect
we're
that
going
was just
underground
the
and all that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah, and it might be nice to know what other roads may need.
Yeah, we could do, like I said, just take some, like you mentioned, just take some
Right.
inventory of which ones may need it as lighting for pedestrians, and then use it as a larger project to do all of them at one time. Connexus does serve most of our community, so that might be a project that they can do all at one time and maybe get some cost savings to do ordering more of them versus 4
Right.
of them. So I don't know if we want to move forward quickly with this. I can most certainly follow up at the next meeting, or at least with a weekly update email to let you guys know if it's going to be included with the power and the actual installation and everything, or if just $40,000 is just the lights themselves. but I know they are expensive.
Just one point, if you're considering a lot of different areas, remember there's 4 different power utility companies serving the area, so you might not get all of those as one project.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
I think it involves more looking at.
I'd like to know that, that's kind of the all-in price.
Yeah.
I think this street is a little bit unique in that it's an extension of a new neighborhood, or it became an extension of a new neighborhood.
Yeah, a lot of traffic.
But I also think we should be looking at other areas where this same thing might have occurred.
Sure.
Just because this was, kind of an ongoing complaint doesn't mean it doesn't exist elsewhere and people haven't spoken up about it.
There's 4 entrances into that same existing neighborhood that in Hayden Hills that were from existing neighborhoods also, so.
I think Arrowwood is another
I'd have to
feeder
look at
street
the map.
into that, is it not?
There's
Yeah.
2 on the south side and 2 on the north side there, so.
Yep.
And then you had brought up paths along that road too. I'd like to see paths along that road. It was a big request from the people that live over there when I was door knocking, was to get paths over there as well to connect up so they can safely, they feel like they can no longer safely take walks down their own street, which I think is an issue because of how much traffic, and having walked that road myself, I don't necessarily blame them. I wouldn't take a young child on that, and if it connects up to the park that's right there, it kind of more welcoming, extending into a larger neighborhood. So the lights, I don't want to hear more on, but I think we should be looking at that holistically. When we plop a neighborhood in the middle of other ones, we got to find ways to make sure we're bringing everyone together, I think.
And that was a plop.
It was, I mean, there was existing stuff all around. It was a
Smack
plop
in
right
the
in the
middle
middle.
of
Yep.
everything.
Yep.
I'm just thinking also if there's going to be sidewalks, would that not change the structure, the design of the lighting
Likely.
as well too?
Yep.
So
Because right now,
maybe-
the lighting are the larger ones that would go over and actually, kind of light
Yeah.
up the whole street
Yeah.
because
Kinda like
of
the big-
pedestrians being on the street.
Big one that's in
If
my
you were to
cul-de-sac.
do sidewalks, it may change the type of lighting you put
Exactly.
on there because it wouldn't need to be lighting up the street then. It would just be needing to light up the sidewalk.
So I'm just
Also,
kind of, sorry,
No, go ahead.
just thinking like then if that's the case, we're likely then, if the sidewalk is a likely case, then maybe we don't go with the other lights, then we just don't pursue that. I'm just thinking maybe there's more headwork then versus just finding power. Now we just got to decide on the design.
Also, if they have to run the power, they might run it over someone's yard and dig part of it up. So if we're going to do that, making sure they're doing it all kind of at one
I
time.
would have presumed that Connexus' response would have said there's no power there, we got to run power to those lights. I would presume that they would have said, okay, you can't do that. But since they did not mention that, I'm going to guess that power's in the ground at some point. We just have to tap into it and then utilize it. So that's what my assumption would be. If we asked Connexus for streetlights, I would hope that they would say there's no power there.
That's all I got.
So yeah, general direction was there. Looking into it more was the answer, but I just don't know if it's
Make sure that's
sidewalks,
the-
is it street lights?
Well, sidewalks is a big step.
Right.
Correct.
That's a big expense. Now,
Correct.
It's not just an expense, it's a right-of-way.
if we have the right-of-way, number one.
We do have some of it, just based on a quick picture of,
Do
and I don't know if
we? Okay.
is exactly perfect, but there is more right of way on the, would be east side of the Deerwood Lane than would be on the west side.
And for some reason, we never asked for sidewalks when the development was built.
Not in this area.
Not in this area. In the Hayden Hills one, there is.
Yeah.
And I did talk to the neighbor that lives right there, where Hayden Hills kind of comes in, because the path comes like right up there. And they had said that they had offered to make that more amenable to a path in the future, so the neighbors could get into that park system. I don't know if they still feel that way, but when the time had happened, they assumed it was going to happen.
It'd certainly be worth looking at.
Okay. What we'll do is I'll come back with just an update for everybody on the council and say, here's what we have for information for sidewalk costs, streetlight costs, everything else based on what we do, and then we can make an informed decision at a future council meeting.
So maybe not the next one, but
Yep, it'll be
yeah.
probably 2 meetings from now, but that'll work.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
okay.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Amy?
So now that we know who the administrator position is, I'm going to ask for support for posting. So he'll still be serving as a dual role in the administrator/finance director, but we would like to hire some type of an accountant role. So a little bit higher level than just data entry, but to take some accounting things off of Zach's plate so that he can do some continuing ed and things like that. We're looking at possibly internal promotion and then posting for the position that we need. Just looking for support.
Well, if that internal position fills the role, I would not have a problem with it.
Yeah, if they meet the job requirements, I mean,
Yeah.
that's perfectly fine that they can apply,
it's-
yeah.
Always, I think, a step up if you can do that.
Perfect. And then, just as a reminder, I am out Tuesday through Friday next week at the MCFOA annual conference. So I'll have email and access intermittently in between classes that I'll be taking
Honolulu?
in St. Cloud.
No.
Not
Close.
quite. But close, yeah.
All right, Marty?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have a couple of items. We're finally taking delivery of the vac truck on Monday. I think that's 18 months going on for 2 years since we placed the order for that. So that's going to be delivered on Monday, and we're getting training on that as well. We're starting to find some potholes and stuff, so we're starting to put some cold mix out. It's not the best idea, but it's what we've got, so that's what we're going to put in the holes. It's the best that we can do at this time of year. The contractor came out and put a bunch of gravel on West French Lake Road and leveled it and shaped it. They're probably going to be coming back tomorrow with a grader to try and smooth it out and compact it down a little more. Zanzibar Lane, we have a few issues there. Staff are going to be adding material and grading that out a little bit tomorrow. And I've been working on grant funding for the water trails quite a lot this week. I've been in touch with Dean Phillips' office. They're they're very positive about our application, so that's going well. I need to have I've got the application in. I need to get the letters of support and some other backup material into them by next Wednesday. So that seems like it's going to be a good thing.
Marty, are you allowed, and I don't, how do I say this? The county road has got some nasty potholes towards the city, the old village. Are you allowed to fill those? Are you spanked if you do so? Or
They don't like us. We can report them to them, and they will take care of them. They are aware of them. I know that they come and try to do something with those.
are they pretty responsive if you?
They can be, yeah.
Okay.
They are generally pretty responsive. And if it's something that they're not going to get to for a while, then we will go out and I'll tell them, look, we
Okay.
can take care of this if you're not going to be here for a long time. But generally, they like to take care of their own stuff, and I'm fine with that.
I am too. It just seems like that
Yeah.
particular pothole's been there for a
But
while.
again,
so-
it's that cold mix material they're putting in there, so it's just popping out again every
Yeah,
time they
okay.
plow it. So
And do we know when, like, asphalt is available? Is that usually later on in April?
St. Paul plant is due to be open the first or second week of April.
Okay.
So now we've got the patch box with the heated box on
Yeah.
it. We can go down there and pick up
Pick some
material.
load it
Keep
up.
it, yeah.
Yeah, and keep it warm all the way back. Before it was no good because by the time we got it was a
hard
solid
enough.
block in the
Yeah.
back of the truck.
Yep.
All right.
I've got a quick water trail question for you, just for clarity. So, I know when we talked, the combined of all the dollar amounts of what was in the slides was like, $4 million or so,
Yeah.
but a huge chunk of that was Three Rivers land and them doing their piece of that.
Yeah.
How much of it was really, how much you're trying to achieve for grants to try to, if we had to cover 100% of what we would have to cover for the Dayton part of
I'm
it?
trying to cover the whole of the first phase of this. So what would probably happen with Three Rivers Park District, it would be us paying for it and getting a reimbursement out of them.
Okay, so
so
net
I-
zero to us, okay?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm trying to get everything to do this first phase. And we might not get all of that, but if we get a majority of it, then that's it'd be a good thing.
How much would you need to cover the first phase?
Just kind of about 4 million, something in that area.
If we don't get that much, would the idea be to cover our city pieces of that? And then the
Correct.
Three Rivers Park, so how much would you need to cover the city's piece of that, approximately?
Well, the minimum amount that we would need would be to do the Stevens Park thing, and that's 760,000, something
Okay.
in there.
Okay.
So there's a range in there, 4 million to 760,000.
But a majority of that, like 3+ of it, was not the city. That was on Three Rivers Park District
Yeah,
land,
yeah,
correct?
yeah.
Okay, thank you for
No,
clarity.
I'm sure they won't mind if we get funding for it, and
I'm sure they weren't. It does help us. I'm just trying to understand for our benefit and the taxpayers' benefit, kind
Yeah.
of what we're trying to achieve to make it as
Yeah.
little impact on the budget.
Yeah,
as
so I'm trying to
possible.
cover as much of the city costs as I possibly can with grant funding. And there's other options of funding out there as well, and there's stuff that we've already applied for, so.
Perfect. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just want to provide a clarification to the radio discussion that we've had a little bit. So from a capital perspective, it's an investment of $59,038.56. And the way we purchase those radios here in the city, that's done on a monthly basis. But I just wanted to make sure you're aware of the total investment, capital investment of $59,038.56. That's spread out over 84 months, no interest on that, just a regular monthly lease payment. And then $22,671.60 is the total cost for fleet support over that 84 months, or an increase of $3,238.80 on an annual basis, just for your information. That's all I have.
Oh, nothing? Nothing? Scott? Travis?
Congratulations to Zach. That's about it.
I have no problem with it, but did I miss something? When did that happen? It's not in the packet.
It'll be approved next meeting.
Oh,
So we actually approved the
Sorry.
contract at the next meeting.
okay.
You didn't miss it.
Yeah, I got nothing. Okay.
Quick update. Well, first, thanks to Zach for agreeing to work for minimum wage.
Is that what that was?
Well, it's not an hourly rate. I did want to say I attended the League of Minnesota Cities Day at the Hill last week, and time well spent. Some things that are hard to get my arms around, quite honestly. There are 2,700 something bills in front of both houses at this time, so really difficult for me to really say what's likely to get approved and what's not. It depends who you listen to. I did meet with Senator John Hoffman, Danny Nadeau, and I also ran into Eric Lucero in the lobby and chatted with him a little bit too. Pushed them all on our helping us with the county on our road situation, and talked a bit about where we are with the water request. Unfortunately, learned that our request did not make it into that first infrastructure bill that was passed by the House last week, so was disappointed to hear that. And I guess
The water?
yeah.
Oh.
So we need to figure out who we need to connect to push that on our behalf, so it gets picked up into one of these other bills, or perhaps the Senate version of that bill. And I'm not sure why or how it got dropped. Nobody really seemed to know much about it, other than that it had fallen off somewhere. So that was disappointing.
And who gave you
to
that
hear.
update?
Danny Nadeau.
Okay.
Yeah, and I talked to Danny, and he thought,
That is
actually, he thought it would
opposite of
get.
the phone
he thought it was a
conversation that I had with
no-brainer,
him.
But who knows? They're probably doing a lot of shuffling.
Right.
Yeah, and I did look at the bill numbers that went along with that, and it was not in there. And puzzling, quite honestly, because there were a number of water requests in there that didn't seem to have any more merit than our requests. So, so we need to figure out where we need to push that one and see if we can't get something to happen with that still. But at this point, it does not seem to be moving. But other than that, it was a productive day, and beyond that, I don't have any other updates.
David, whether it means anything or not, Senator Hoffman did email me that you were there, so.
Yeah, well, a friend of mine who's in Hawaii right now sent me a picture of me and John Hoffman together, so.
The information loop.
Yeah, it's a small world, I guess, but interesting guy. He
Yeah.
can sure talk your arm off.
Mhm.
But I think he can help us with some stuff. He's been around a while, so.
He's been around, done a few things for Champlin.
Quite a few.
All right, Matt.
I just have one question or update, and it's for Marty, and that is I've gotten a handful of emails from residents in River Hills. There's streetlights and wiring, but no meters for the streetlights. So curious if you have any update on that.
So with that, I've been chasing the builder for M&I Homes out there for a considerable amount of time. They're having issues with their contractor. Somebody dropped the ball at the contractor's office and didn't get a hold of the electric company to install the meters. I'm not getting any reasonable updates from them at the moment. So what I'm proposing to do is I have a contact at Excel who comes to all the pre-construction meetings. I will talk with him and see exactly what's going on and bypass the builder. I think Doyle will be able to, he's very responsive to me, so hopefully I can get it done that way. I don't think we're getting anywhere at the moment with the builders. The meters, everything, the electrical panels have been there for probably somewhere near a year now, I think. And I think initially the contractor forgot about those streetlights in the first place, and that's why the panels didn't go into last year. So I will get a hold of Doyle from Excel and see if we can move this along a little bit quicker.
So Emmeline's building homes in the like right next to that current neighborhood. How do we make sure this doesn't happen again? Is there a way we can hold them better accountable to it? Something that we can do to get them to the job they're supposed to? 'Cause, I mean, we're basically paying city staff to do work they should be doing.
Yeah.
So if we add it up and bill them, I'm sure they won't be happy with the bill, but like we shouldn't be covering the cost because they're unable to follow through on their requirements of their construction.
You know, this is the first time that I've had this kind of experience with the electrical contractors are generally really good. It's the in-between contractors that we're having the issue with. I haven't had this any other development at all, so this is a one-off.
Okay.
I'm pretty confident that, you know, going forward, I think everything is all in place already in the Riverwalk as far as streetlights is concerned, and they're up and running. So
Okay.
it's just this one thing. So I will get on that, and I will give you an update as soon as I get something back.
All right, thank you. That's all I have.
All right, we are on to council business item G. I think that's you.
So this one is a public hearing.
Yep, all of that once we.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Tonight before you, you have an interim ordinance for a development moratorium. It's been before you before, and we're kind of back now after a couple meetings, and you now have Planning Commission's recommendation in front of you. So the boundary on the map shown is the boundary recommended by the Planning Commission at their March 2nd meeting. It was a healthy discussion on where that boundary fell, along with how long the moratorium runs for and whether they recommended it. The Planning Commission did recommend to have a development moratorium to kind of run alongside the transportation plan amendment, because that is the reasoning that we're going forward with the development moratorium. So in your draft interim ordinance, it is drafted with that boundary in mind that the Planning Commission recommended. 129th on the north, east is the Three Rivers Park District, south is roughly the southern boundary of the city until you get to 81, and then the west is a little hard to describe without looking at the map. But that was the boundary recommended by Planning Commission. In the draft ordinance, it is set up for 6 months, with the anticipated schedule for the transportation amendment falling within that time frame, with a planned council approval in June and Met council approval in August. So that 6 months would run from today until 6 months, so September 14th. And then we could, if the council wanted to, you could come out of the moratorium earlier if the transportation plan went quicker than expected. So you can go for an additional length of time because you can go up to a year, so you can go an additional 6 months if you would like to, or you can come out of it early, but it just would take a similar action to what's in front of you tonight.
Did you get clarity from a legal standpoint? Is it the planned city council approval in June or the Met council approval in August that matters for us when we get final plats to make decisions?
To take an action on a final plat, it would be the Met council approval in August. As far as giving direction at a concept plan stage, you can use it once it's been approved by you in June. That's the difference, is when it's concept, it can be informal feedback, so we can have this plan not officially in place, but use it as guidance, whereas the approval in August is the stamp on it that says it's finally approved, and then we can use it in resolutions and ordinances and other city documents.
And did I hear you properly at the planning commission that as long as moratorium's in place, we can't see concept plans, correct?
So that was, I spoke with the city attorney and asked about that, and technically we could review concept plans because there's non-binding action in there. It's just informal feedback and a discussion more so, and it doesn't grant them any entitlements or development for the property. However, you typically don't see concept plans because they can't pursue anything further than that. It just so they may come in, but it doesn't give them any development rights. So they could come in with a concept plan, but not anything that would grant approvals for anything.
I can see them doing that, knowing, that there's a terminus on the plan, on the moratorium, but.
I've got one more question, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
The red line, because it's hard to see on the far western side, does this include or not include the Stensel property?
It does.
It does.
Okay.
Yep. It's covered up a little bit on the screen by the zoom bar.
Okay.
But it does
I think
go.
you can move the zoom bar if you just
Okay,
drag it,
Drag it.
I think.
Well, not if I click apps. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so the Stencil property is, if you can see my cursor, is the pink one right here in the
Okay.
corner. The boundary is just south of that, running along here.
Okay, thank you.
We can hash this out, but I'm kind of falling towards pulling that property out of this for a number of reasons. I suspect they have an uphill battle regardless with the county 81 and a few other things, but they have been working on this property for quite a while, and
I would agree, it's a tricky decision, that property, but I'm in the same position I think you are, Dennis, on that one.
anybody else have any?
I agree with you. And
Scott?
I've seen, I think we've all seen a couple of different versions of that property, and I believe that they have been working hard on it, so.
I'm okay with us doing that. There's been active planning, albeit a couple of failed attempts, but active planning on that one. And I know there is a letter that was sent to you by the current hopeful developer, I guess I would term them, around it, which is far from a commitment, but I would hate to derail it. I certainly understand from the Stensel's letter that they are very interested in selling this property, and
I do
we
think
need to disrupt that.
Yeah. Well, so the caveat to that is I do think we should look at the guidance there, because I'm not sure that's the best guidance, but I think at this point I'd be okay. I think I'd be okay pulling it out of the moratorium.
Are you referring to the conversation about that at the planning commission, the use of it?
They talked about it.
Yeah.
But I've never understood why we guided it as we did.
Yeah.
But it's guided that way, so.
I think the uniqueness with this is has it been over a year, but a long history of them trying to develop this property. I don't
Yes.
think we have any other properties in the moratorium that we have
Yeah.
a significant history with, so I don't think we're setting an exception. I think we're just looking at how things are progressing
Right.
now and making a fair judgment based upon months and months and months, if not over a year, of trying to
Of them
get that
working
property
on,
moving
yeah.
forward.
Yep.
Do you have any input here? Are you okay with, what are your
Changing the
thoughts?
boundary around that one.
I'm fine with it. I mean, I don't foresee anything happening anyway, but,
Yeah, I suspect, yeah, but,
and we have nothing else in the works because that's going to set a precedent. I mean, we're going to move the line for this possible deal.
And I don't think it sets a precedent because we don't have anything else that's months and months and months in the making. Well, I think that's what you're asking, is there anything else multiple months in the making?
Right.
But I don't think it sets a precedent for someone to come to us and say, well, you made an exception for them, when in reality,
Correct.
this is months. Yeah.
I got one other letter about a couple of properties, but they're not in the moratorium area, so that was not going to be affected anyway. There's one other property, and it's not the same issue. It's having trouble picking it up on the map, but it's in the red area, and it appeared to be an area in, that was, at least according to Hennepin County, being actively divided. And
Oh.
I just wanted to make sure that we weren't, drawing a line through a property that was going to
in
be
the red
one.
area.
one
You're
or-
talking about where it'd be purple south of French Lake there? Is that what you're
South
talking
of
about?
French Layton.
Yep, so that is this, so it would
Yeah,
essentially
I'm
be,
sorry.
the bottom boundary or the western boundary below French Lake would essentially be what the new Dayton Parkway would be, because that property is currently being divided into the cubes, and that's the 1 million square foot industrial building. So it shows on this map as 3 or 4 different parcels. It will be a revamped 4 different parcels once the division and process gets pushed through. So the red line probably won't go straight up and down, it will likely just follow the parkway, since there'll be nothing be able to go west of that, if that makes any sense.
Okay, I just want to make sure we aren't
Yeah.
drawing a line that's sort of half in and half out on
Yeah,
the
so
new
that,
boundary.
that current property is technically already developed, so it won't really much matter, because there's nothing that's gonna change anymore, because if you drive it through the building that's already being constructed, it's not gonna change anything. But
So is it the county's map that's kind of lagging?
yes,
on-
yep, so the county's map, if you click on it, click on the screen, it actually shows the correct boundary if you look at the interactive map. But if you don't click on anything, just look at the picture that's on there, the lines don't match up.
Satellite image.
Yeah, the satellite image doesn't line up, but you click it, then it's correctly outlined.
Dennis is showing me right
Correct.
here on it, yeah.
It's correctly outlined in the
Yeah.
thing, so if you click on it, then it works, but I don't know.
It's also a subdivision in process, which is exempt by the
That's
moratorium.
correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so it sounds like we are all okay with that exception. Any other questions? I'll open it up for a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing. You might have got your answer, but go ahead.
Thank you. My name's Karen Jackla, and I live at 14355 Kingsview Lane North in Dayton. And I'm here tonight to express support for the citywide moratorium. And I say that because I think as a resident, it's very important that we have clean and adequate water, which has been a problem and could be, from your discussion about the House and Senate bill, even a larger issue in the future. So that's a consideration, along with the support that we have adequate emergency services, and happy to see that we've added some police staff, and wondering too about our fire department. I know it's all volunteer, and so some concerns about that and the adequacy of the equipment that we have. I know maybe it's changed, but there was concern about having a hook and ladder unit tall enough to actually reach some of the large houses that are being constructed. Maybe you can answer that for me if that's been purchased already?
No, the chief has mentioned that it is on a long-term plan, but it's on the list.
Fires happen, you know. I know we live next to one of those houses, and it could cause our house to burn and others, so I would put those on the top. And that's our concern. So we appreciate you thinking about this, because it's often that a city bites off more than they can chew. And having lived here 5 years, it's starting to look a little like that to us. So we're glad you're taking the time to refocus.
Feeling a little like that. So,
Yeah, thank you very
Thank you for
much.
coming up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else for public hearing? All right, nobody, so we can close the public hearing. All right, so I think we're to the point where we can,
Do you need a motion?
yep,
A motion with, because we need to change the boundary, so we need to
accept the Stanley property, is that?
exempt them. Yeah. And make a motion to exempt the Stensley property from the moratorium.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the moratorium in the amended property Any more discussion?
Just want to add a couple notes, so just so people are aware. I know we're aware, but I got a lot of emails from people is that even if the moratorium passes, there's still approximately 700 homes that have already been approved for building this year. So passes, doesn't pass, there's still 700 homes that could be built this year. I don't think they will be built this year, especially based on the economy and how far along a lot of those are. But just so everyone's clear, it's not going to stop anything that's currently in process.
Yep, doesn't
I
halt
think that's an
current
important note
projects
to
in
make.
the works, yeah.
I also want to note something that the staff has done multiple times, which is we do comp plan changes every decade, and we don't put a moratorium in place while we're doing that. I just think it's just a good piece of information that we're all aware of. That's all I have.
I want to make a correction quickly. There's 700 lots available, not
Right.
building
Sorry.
being built.
Yes.
Yeah,
built.
yeah.
So
Lots,
there's
yes.
700 lots available for building. It does not mean that they will be built on. It just means that they are available to be built.
Thank you for the clarity.
Yes, just want to
And-
clarify.
And to clarify Matt's comment, those comp plans also, other than the interchange, didn't involve moving roads. So,
But other cities do comp plan changes and don't do moratoriums, and they do them on a regular basis, correct?
Oh, I mean, about every 10 years.
Yeah.
right, and,
Exactly.
and I don't know that, I mean, the amount of building we've had is pretty unprecedented.
I don't disagree.
So to me, I don't want to run the risk. So if you,
I'm just bringing forth things so that people that email me,
sure.
no.
Okay, any other comments on this? We've had a motion and a second. All those in favor say, are you here to?
Yeah, if I may, I'm sorry, and I
Oh.
messed up the public comment because I didn't
Yep.
think it was necessary, but now I think there's maybe a detail I can add.
Sure.
If I may.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
state your name and address and then fill out a.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Patrick. I'm with Enclave, the developer that's working on the property that you're speaking about regarding the Stencil property. The reason why I just wanted to make a quick comment is I believe the boundaries of the Stencil property itself, there's a teeny triangle up off the northwest corner of their property that technically they don't own, but has been a part of every single development proposal to date. And we would intend to do the same thing. It's a very small, teeny triangle. It's a different property owner. I'm just bringing it up in case, like, from the technicality of a legal
Yes.
exemption.
It'll be the-
We
We
don't
would
want it
look to
splitting,
have that
yeah.
included if possible.
We will
please.
use the north side of the Stensley property running directly east and west. So that includes, there's a tiny corner, what is Patrick is mentioning, is that there's a tiny corner owned by the Stearns that
Yep.
technically are not owned by the Stensleys.
That whole mixed zone. That whole
Yeah,
mixed
the
zone.
whole mixed use
Is
zone,
that
so.
turning
So,
into like a pond
okay,
or
to be
something?
clear,
Holding
then it's-
pond, isn't that most
It
of
would be,
that one?
yeah, directly east and west on the north side,
Yep.
the north side
Sorry,
of the
I'm
Stensley
not trying to
property. That's
interrupt you or
correct.
anything.
So the exception would be, we would exempt out the mixed use zoning there. 'cause
Along
that's
81.
unique.
That
Yep.
one pink zone.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the
Sorry.
That would have been an oops.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've had that. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries. So with that, let me get back to the, I think we're,
It's not even dark yet.
if we will have no other issues, we're adjourned.
I think you broke a record.
We're adjourned? Well.
I don't know about world record.